I thought my husband loved my family because he loved me. Then I found notes about my sister-in-law. I asked, was I ever the one? He couldn't answer. So I took the photos off our wall. At first, it sounds dramatic, like I wanted a big scene or some perfect revenge moment. I didn't. I was standing in our hallway with my hands shaking, staring at framed pictures from birthdays, holidays, and family dinners, realizing my husband had been standing beside me in half of them while looking at her. And the worst part was, she had no idea. My husband is Owen. My brother is Luke. His wife is Claire. I'm Tess. Owen and I have been married for 4 years. Luke and Claire have been married longer, and for most of my adult life, they were the couple everyone quietly admired. Not because they were perfect. They argued over normal things. Claire could look at Luke from across the room, and he would know she wanted to leave. Luke could make one dry comment, and Claire would laugh before anyone else understood it. I used to love that about them. Then Owen started loving it too much. Owen came into my life through family gatherings. He was a friend of someone Luke knew, then somehow he became the person who kept getting invited. He was polite, helpful, and easy to trust. My mother liked him immediately. Luke thought he was decent. Claire was friendly, but never too friendly. She was polite to everyone. She never flirted with Owen, never singled him out, never gave me a reason to worry. That matters, because I want to be fair. Claire did not chase my husband. She did not wink at him across the table. She did not create this mess. Looking back, I think she kept a careful distance from him without making it obvious. I was the one who thought his interest in my family was sweet. When Owen and I started dating, I told myself it was a green flag that he liked coming to family dinners. A lot of men complain about in-laws before they even have them. Owen didn't. He helped Luke carry furniture. I thought, this is what it feels like when someone fits. I didn't know he was fitting himself into a place he wanted before he ever wanted me. The signs were small enough that I felt stupid noticing them. Owen always seemed aware when Claire walked into a room. Not in an obvious way. If Claire told a story, Owen listened like every word mattered. If I told one, he listened too, but with me it felt different. Like he was waiting for his turn to speak. With her, he absorbed. I hated myself for noticing, so I pushed the feeling down. I told myself he was just friendly. I told myself he was just close to my family. I told myself a woman can ruin her own peace by looking for problems that are not there. Then there was the barbecue. Claire wore a simple green dress, nothing dramatic or inappropriate. But when she stepped outside, Owen went quiet. It only lasted a few seconds, but I saw it. He looked at her like he had been waiting for her to appear. On the drive home, he said, Luke doesn't appreciate what he has. I looked over at him. What is that supposed to mean? He kept his eyes on the road. He barely listens when she talks. I told him that was a weird thing to say about my brother's marriage. Owen's jaw tightened. I'm just saying some men don't know how lucky they are. That sentence stayed with me. After that, I paid closer attention. Not snooping. Not hunting for a reason to be angry. Just watching what I had already started to feel. When Luke and Claire disagreed, Owen took Claire's side before he even understood what happened. If Luke complained about something small, Owen acted like it proved some bigger flaw in him. If Claire praised Luke, Owen's face changed for half a second, like he had swallowed something bitter. One night, after dinner at Luke and Claire's house, Luke forgot to help Claire bring in bags from the car. It was a tiny thing. Claire rolled her eyes, laughed, and went outside herself. Owen immediately got up and followed her. I watched through the window as he took the bags from her. She smiled politely, but she stepped back right away. I remember that part clearly. She stepped back. When Owen came inside, he looked irritated. Later, I asked why he seemed angry. He said, "Your brother is lazy." I told him Luke forgot groceries, not a child in a parking lot. Owen snapped, "You always defend him." I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. That was when the feeling in my stomach changed. Before that, I thought maybe Owen was protective of Claire because she was family now. Maybe he saw her like a sister. Maybe I was insecure. Maybe I was blaming Claire for something wrong inside my own marriage. Because that was the other part. Owen wasn't cruel to me. That would have been easier. He remembered anniversaries. He kissed my forehead when he left. He held my hand during movies. He made coffee for me on Sundays. But there was always a distance I couldn't name. His affection felt real in the moment, then strangely absent afterward. His compliments sounded careful, like he was trying to say the right thing instead of feeling it naturally. Sometimes he looked at me with effort, and that hurt more than indifference would have. I told myself marriage changed after a few years. Not every love story stayed intense. Not every husband stared at his wife like she hung the moon. Still, I always felt almost loved. Almost chosen. Almost enough. Then I found the phone. We were cleaning out a closet when Owen got called away to help a friend move something. I stayed behind with a trash bag and a pile of tangled chargers. That was when I found his old phone, dead and cracked, shoved inside a box with receipts and cables. I almost threw it out. Then I remembered it might have old pictures from when we were dating. So I plugged it in. It took a while to turn on. When it finally did, the wallpaper was a photo of us from years ago. I was laughing. Owen had his arm around me. We looked happy. I stared at that picture and missed the woman in it. Not because she was younger. Because she still believed what she was seeing. I opened the photo gallery first. There were old pictures of family dinners, blurry holiday photos, and a few from Luke and Claire's kitchen. One showed Claire laughing while holding a glass of wine. Owen had taken it from across the room. It wasn't strange by itself. People take pictures at gatherings. But something about it made my chest tighten. Then I opened the Notes app. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted proof that I was wrong. Maybe I wanted to feel embarrassed for suspecting him. Maybe I wanted the phone to show me my marriage was normal. There were grocery lists, reminders, half-written thoughts, and random lines from years ago. Then I saw Claire's name. My whole body went still. The first note was from before Owen and I started dating. It said Claire was the kind of woman men ruin themselves over. I read it 3 times. Each time, the words felt colder. Another note said he hated watching Luke touch her shoulder because Luke didn't deserve to touch someone like that. Another said he needed to stop going to their house because it was becoming humiliating. I put the phone down on the carpet because my hands were shaking. The room looked the same, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. The bed we picked together. The dresser we argued about building. The framed wedding photo on the wall. Everything normal, everything suddenly ruined. I picked the phone up again. There was a note from around the time Owen and I started dating. It said, maybe being close to her circle is better than being nowhere. That was the line that made me feel like I had been removed from my own life. There were more notes after our wedding. They weren't graphic. They didn't prove he had touched her or confessed to her. In a strange way, that made it harder to explain why I felt so violated. He wrote that I was kind. That I loved him. That he wished that was enough. He wrote that marrying me made him feel guilty, but also safe, because nobody would question why he was always around Luke and Claire. Safe. That was the word he used. Our marriage made his obsession safe. I sat on the closet floor reading years of my life from behind a locked door I never knew existed. Family dinners looked different now. Holidays looked different. Group photos looked different. Every time he offered to help Claire, every time he criticized Luke, every time he told me I was reading too much into things, it all rearranged itself in my head. When Owen came home, I was still sitting there. He stopped in the bedroom doorway and saw the phone in my hand. His face changed before I said anything. That was how I knew. I asked, did you ever love her? He didn't answer. I asked again, quieter. Owen, did you ever love Claire? He rubbed both hands over his face and said, it's complicated. I almost laughed because those 2 words were too small for what they destroyed. I asked, was I ever the one? He looked at me, and the silence felt worse than any answer. Finally, he admitted he had feelings for Claire before me, but he claimed he buried them. He told me he loved me in his own way, that he chose me, that private thoughts were not the same as cheating. I asked if he married me to stay close to her. His eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel sorry for him. Not then. He said, I didn't think of it like that. I said, then how did you think of it? He looked down and said being with me felt like a chance to become part of a family he already wanted. That sentence did something to me I still don't know how to describe. It wasn't anger at first. It was grief. Like I had walked into a room and found my marriage already dead, and everyone else had been pretending it was breathing. I told him that was the cruelest thing anyone had ever said to me. He tried to reach for my hand, and I moved away. Then he started pleading. He told me he never cheated, Claire never encouraged him, and he had tried to be a good husband. He said he built a life with me, not her. According to him, everyone has thoughts they're ashamed of, and I was punishing him for feelings he never acted on. That is where I know people might be divided. Because no, he did not sleep with her. No, I didn't find secret messages between them. Claire didn't betray me. Luke didn't know. There was no hotel receipt, no hidden affair, no dramatic proof I could show people and say, see? This is why I'm leaving. But he built a marriage with me while quietly mourning another woman across the dinner table. For 4 years, I wondered why I always felt like I was standing just outside the warmest part of his love. I wondered why he could be sweet and still feel absent. I wondered why he seemed more offended by Luke's flaws than any normal brother-in-law should be. Now I had the answer. I didn't call my mother first because I already knew what she would say. She would want peace. She would want counseling. She would ask if I was sure I wanted to throw away a marriage over something that never became physical. So I called Luke. He answered joking, then went quiet when he heard my voice break. I told him I needed to come over. When I got there, Claire was upstairs. Luke and I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Owen had watched her for years, and I showed him enough of the notes to explain. Not all of them. Some things felt too ugly to pass around. Luke read in silence. His face went pale, then blank. He asked, "Does Claire know?" I said, "I don't think so." He stood up and walked to the sink like he might be sick. I thought he might yell. I thought he might blame me for bringing Owen into the family. He didn't. He just said, "That's why he always looked at me like that." And that was when I realized Luke had felt it too. He just never had a name for it. Claire came downstairs because she heard voices. Luke asked if he could tell her, and I said yes. Keeping it from her felt wrong. She deserved to know she had been turned into a shadow inside someone else's marriage. Luke explained carefully. Claire looked confused at first, then embarrassed, then horrified. The first thing she said to me was, "I'm so sorry." That broke me more than Owen's crying. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. She kept shaking her head anyway. She said she always felt Owen was too intense around her, but she thought maybe she was being arrogant for assuming that. Sometimes she stepped away from him on purpose because his attention felt heavy. I remembered the grocery bags. The way she moved back from him. She knew something was wrong. She just didn't know what. Luke asked if Owen had ever crossed a line with her. Claire said not directly. Just comments that felt too personal, favors offered too quickly, looks that made her uncomfortable. Nothing obvious enough to accuse him of without sounding dramatic. I understood that too well. The next morning, Owen had already sent me a long apology. He wrote that he loved me, that love is a choice, and that the notes were old shame he never meant for anyone to see. He said he had been loyal in every way that mattered. I stared at that last line for a long time. Loyal in every way that mattered. I wondered who got to decide what mattered. Later, my mother found out enough to form an opinion. She sighed like this was a sad misunderstanding instead of something that had gutted me. She said men can have stupid private thoughts. She said if Owen never touched Claire, maybe the marriage deserved a chance. I asked her if she would still say that if Dad had written notes for years about wanting another woman, then married her sister to stay close to that woman. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "That's different." I said, "No. It only feels different because it's me." After that, I stopped explaining. Owen came back a few days later to get clothes. I had already packed some of his things. He walked into the bedroom and saw the old phone sitting on the dresser like evidence. He said, "You're making me into a monster." I told him I wasn't making him into anything. I was reading what he wrote. He said, "I was ashamed. I stayed. I married you. I tried." I asked, "Would you have married me if Claire had been single?" He looked wounded, like the question was unfair. But he still didn't answer. That was another answer. He sat on the edge of the bed and cried quietly. He said he didn't want Claire now, that the fantasy had faded, that he loved the life we built. He said I was real, and what he felt for her was never real because she never knew. He wanted therapy. He wanted time. He wanted me to remember the good parts. For a second, I almost softened. Because I did love him. That is the part people forget when they judge you from the outside. Betrayal doesn't erase love immediately. It makes love heavy. It turns every good memory into something you have to inspect for cracks. I remembered him making coffee for me, holding me when my grandmother died, driving across town because I wanted soup when I had the flu, laughing with me in bed over stupid videos. All that ordinary tenderness still existed, and that made the truth harder to carry. If he had been cruel, I could have slammed the door and called it strength. But he had been kind enough to confuse me. I told him I needed him to leave anyway. He asked if we could talk before I made a decision. I said, "I think we've been talking for 4 years. I just didn't know the real subject." He left after that. For a week, I moved through the house like a guest. I couldn't sit at the kitchen table without remembering dinners with Luke and Claire. I couldn't sleep in our bed without wondering if Owen had ever lain beside me wishing he was closer to her instead. I couldn't look at our wedding photo without feeling embarrassed for the woman in the dress. I know that sounds harsh. Maybe it is. But humiliation has a way of making your happiest memories feel staged. The worst part was not knowing what counted as betrayal. If I said my husband cheated, people would ask for proof. If I said he was obsessed with my sister-in-law, people would say obsession is not an action. If I said he used me, they would ask if he had also loved me. Maybe he did, in some limited and damaged way. But I don't think you can build a marriage on a hidden altar to someone else and call it love. Claire checked on me without making it about herself. Luke told Owen not to contact their house again unless it went through him. That caused another message from Owen, accusing Luke of making things worse and turning everyone against him. That was when my sympathy started to fade. Even after everything, Owen was still angry at Luke. Still acting like my brother was the obstacle. Still unable to see that Luke had not ruined anything. Then Owen wrote, "He's always been careless with what he has." I read that sentence and felt something inside me go calm. Not peaceful. Clear. Owen had not let go of the story in his head. Even after being caught, even after seeing me break, some part of him still believed Luke had something he deserved more. That was the day I took the photos down. I started in the hallway. Our wedding picture came down first. Then the family holiday photo, where Claire stood beside Luke and Owen stood beside me with his eyes slightly turned. Then a picture from a cookout. Then a birthday dinner. One by one, I removed every framed memory that now felt like evidence. I didn't smash them. I didn't write on them. I stacked them carefully in a box. At the bottom, I placed the old phone. No note. No speech. Just the photos and the thing that changed how I saw them. I left the box with the friend Owen was staying with. That night, Owen called me cruel. He said I was reducing our whole marriage to his worst thoughts. He said people survive worse. He said I was letting pride make the decision. Maybe some people will agree with him. Maybe they will say private thoughts should stay private. Maybe they will say he never acted on it, that Claire never participated, that I should try counseling before divorce. Maybe they will say marriage is complicated, and everyone has ugly thoughts they would hate to see written down. I have thought about all of that. But I keep coming back to one simple thing. If I had known before the wedding that Owen saw me as a way into a family he wanted because of another woman, I never would have married him. That means my choice was taken from me. Not with a dramatic affair. Not with hotel rooms or secret texts. With silence. With years of letting me believe I was the center of a love story when I was really the closest acceptable door. I have not filed yet, but I met with a lawyer. I took my important documents out of the house. I sleep better now that Owen is gone, even though the bed feels too big. Luke and Claire are still together, but things are tense in a way none of us asked for. Claire still apologizes sometimes, and I keep telling her to stop. She didn't steal my husband. He gave part of himself away and made all of us live around it. My mother has stopped pushing counseling. I think she finally understands that forgiveness is not the same as repair. As for me, I don't feel victorious. I feel tired. I feel embarrassed. I feel angry in quiet waves. But I also feel something I haven't felt in years. I trust my own discomfort again. After years of telling myself I was imagining things, that feels like getting a piece of myself back. Owen keeps asking for one conversation where we don't talk about the notes. He wants me to remember the good parts. I do remember them. That is the problem. The good parts are still there, but now they sit beside the truth, and I can't separate them cleanly. Maybe one day I'll feel sorry for him. Maybe I'll understand that wanting someone you can't have can make people weak and selfish. Maybe I'll even believe he loved me as much as he was able to. But right now, I don't want a marriage where I have to be grateful he settled for me instead of chasing a fantasy. I want to be chosen without a shadow in the room. So am I wrong for wanting to leave my husband even though he says he never cheated, or is this the kind of betrayal you don't come back from?